down to Pearl Harbor, and they again hid us out in the submarine base officers club. The club was closed, but they opened it up, and so we had a place to sit. And about 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, maybe a little bit earlier, 3 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the Enterprise came into port, and it tied up at Pearl Harbor. And we went down there, and they weren't letting anybody but wounded and off the ship. And they were keeping track because there were a lot of people that were still missing and unaccounted for. And so they were taking names, and there was press there, but the press were being kept away, and we were still in our flight seats and everything. And once everybody, the injured were off, we went aboard the ship. And I was the safety officer of the squadron at that time, and I was naturally concerned about our airplanes and our people. Well, we lucked out because all our airplanes were on the first launch. We had none on the flight deck for the second launch. So our airplanes were still in the hangar bay, and the canopies were closed when the the fog foam went off and flooded the hangar bay with firefighting stuff. No one was hurt, and no A6s were lost. We stayed, they made some assessments of what it was going to take to repair the ship. And of course, I wasn't interested in that at this time, other than the fact that they said, you're going to be here, it's going to take 3 months to do it. 3 months to repair the ship. If we repair the ship here in Pearl Harbor. If we send it back to the United States, then the cruise is over for all practical purposes. And some guys were saying, wow, good, we won't have to go on cruise. The Navy said, not so fast, Enterprise. We have lost the Oriskany, had to be returned home from the Oriskany fire. The Forrestal fire had to be returned home. The Air Force, politically, it is unacceptable for the Enterprise, the Navy's first nuclear carrier, to be sidelined with a flight deck fire. What good are aircraft carriers if you can't fix them and fight them? So they said, okay, we're going to repair the Enterprise in Pearl Harbor. So the Air Wings was offloaded. The A7s and the A6s went to Barbers Point. The fighters and the vigilantes went to Kaneohe, the Marine Corps Air Station. And we stayed there until Enterprise. The ship had 28 people killed. No, we stayed there till 6th March, right around the 1st of March. So 14th of January, 14th of February. So in about 6-7 weeks, they repaired the ship and got it seaworthy again. Now, when I say repair it, the number 4 elevator was welded shut, welded in the up position. It couldn't go down. That was on the aft port side. The bomb hits had gone off and blown down through the berthing compartments. Where
again, that's just what happened with the Forrestal. Is
yeah. Well, the lessons that were learned on the Forrestal saved the Enterprise. On the Forrestal, the first guys that went in to fight the fire were all killed because the bombs went off. They cooked off in something like 6 minutes or something like that, and wiped out the firefighting party. And up until that time, there's a lot of talk about the Navy always, everybody on a carrier is a damage control person. That's not true. The Air Wing did not send their enlisted or their pilots or anybody else to firefighting school until after the forest fire. And after the forest fire, everybody had to go learn how to fight a fire. So that when the first guys went in to fight, first of all, they had put the coating on the bombs, this rubberized coating that delayed the cook-off time for the bombs to self-detonate. They delayed that coating, helped delay it. The firefighters went in, and then several of them were killed. But the Air Department and the Air Wing guys who were caught on the flight deck were able to take over the firefighting, and from the lessons learned, fight the fires. And of course, the ship was better prepared for it too as well, and turned into the wind, so the fire went aft and the fuel went aft. Fortunately for the ship, the bombs that went off and on were scattered around the fantail and did not blow down through the arresting gear. So the arresting gear places, the machinery was all safe, or were not damaged. But the flight deck, because of the intensity of fire, was warped. And even though they had to manufacture the steel, they didn't have any spare flight deck steel sitting around. They had to remanufacture the steel. I thought it was Bethlehem Steel that did that. I could be wrong. But in patching the ship up, after we got back on board, when you landed and you were rolling out, especially if you caught a one wire, it was a yeah, the landing area had a ripple in it. But it was nice because
Carol.
Well, I was just gonna ask, did you hear about this fire before you heard from Woody?
I think so. It's hard to remember, but I think so. And then since he was going to be over there so long, I made a trip over.
Yeah.
So got to go over.
So what was the time frame between when you launched and the fire broke out?
it was about an hour and a half,
Okay.
because they were starting the engines on the second launch. And I think we were on an hour and 30-minute cycle time. So we had checked in with Marshall just about the time that they were, the fires had just started. And because we had gone down to Cowell, dropped our bombs, came back, and we're just checking, getting ready to go up in orbit. When they bingoed us.
Yeah.
But so it was very fortunate that, because our airplanes, the A6s had been parked in the fantail.
Oh, had they?
On for the first launch, because the bomb elevators that brought up the Mark 84s were back aft, and so it just so happened that had those Mark 84s been there and our airplanes been there and been in the fire, the damage would have been much greater. As it was just 500-pound bombs, plus the Zunis and the Sidewinders that cooked off as well.
So you went back out with the Enterprise to Yankee Station then?
We left on the 6th of March and went straight. We didn't do an ORI. They figured we passed, and we went back out to Yankee Station. And we got out of Yankee Station, and I'm not sure of this. I want to say the 28th of March. So we got out there. We'd been on station not too long, maybe a week or so. And the North Koreans shot down an EC-121. 31 people were on that EC-121, Willie Victor, a Constellation, 4-engine Constellation from VQ-1. And two MiG-21s came out. They were about 60 miles off the coast and shot down all 31 people on the EC-121 were killed. Well, President Nixon, who had just come into office in
January 69.
yeah, he came in January 69 because the election was November of 68. He fiddly farted around for a couple days, and then he says, we're going to send a task force from Yankee Station up to the Sea of Japan, and we're going to punish the North Koreans. So Enterprise led the Ranger, and I want to say Ticonderoga, 3 carriers. I'm not sure about the Tyco, but I know the Ranger. And we charged up to Chojijo, which was just south of the Sea of Japan, south of South Korea. And we set up an orbit out there. And the plan was the CO of our A6 squadron was Niles Gooding. The CO of the I forget which one it was. Was it 145? I was in 145. It must have been 52 or so. 52 or 165 was on Ranger, and his skipper was Lee Cole Morgan, and they got together and they planned the strike on Wonsan Harbor. Now Wonsan Harbor was to be the place where we were going to punish the North Koreans, and it was a screwy plan. We were going to launch at night. We would carry all the A6s would carry. It was going to be an A6 strike only between the A6s from the Ranger and the A6s from the Enterprise, and we were going to go in one at a time, and we're going to have to overfly a destroyer, and the president had authority to stop the strike at any point if planes started being lost. And I was, for all the lieutenant commanders in the squadron, when the crew list came out, I was number 5, which I didn't like one bit, because number 1, 2, and 3, number 1, 2, and 3 are going to make it okay because they got some surprise. Number 4 is going to get scared, and number 5 is going to get shot up. So we hung around down there for a couple days or a week maybe, and then one thing we would do is we would check with the ship's INS, and on the A6 you could get an alignment by getting a cable and taking the ship's INS system and plugging it into the A6, and so you get an alignment of your INS in the airplane while you're still sitting on the flight deck. Well, if we would call the INS office and ask them, what's our latitude and longitude? Where are we? We know where we were, but if we went up into the Sea of Japan, we were only going to go up to launch. We were not going to go up there in orbit. Well, one night, my roommate at that time was John Smith, and we're laying there and half asleep, and the lights are out, and all of a sudden the ship's like, John, you awake? Yeah. Why are we going so fast? I don't know. Do you want to call ship's IC? Yeah. He called. We're heading north, and we're doing 30 knots. But there was no call, so they called the ready room. Nothing. There's no nothing. Well, Nixon had made the decision that he wasn't going to bomb North Korea. So we went up to the Sea of Japan and we orbited there for a given amount of time. And then Ticonderoga left, and then Ranger left, and then lastly Enterprise left.
And then you know who replaced him?
Who?
Kitty Hawk,
Kitty Hawk.
with my dad on board.
Is that right?
Yeah. So that was so. Meanwhile, we hadn't really had any combat to speak of because we'd been delayed getting out there. So we got back down to Yankee Station, and this was sometime in April, and we were bombing in Laos in those days, on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and that was making, killing monkeys and going after truck barges.
Moving mud is
Yeah.
what I was told.
But it was really nothing. During that time, it was somewhere, 196 had lost a good friend of mine, Mike Bouchard, who had gone over with VQ1 with me. Mike was shot down and killed. Lyle Bull was Mike's BN at the time, but Lyle Bull had been sent to Nakhon Phanom to be the Navy rep up there with the Air Force in monitoring the seismic devices that were being laid along the Ho Chi Minh Trail to try and track the trucks as they came down at night. And then at night, NKP would also give us, when we'd go up and try to do our road recce up along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, they would give us the coordinates of where they thought the trucks were parked, and we'd drop our rock eyes and not really doing anything of any importance, just getting for every mission you got 1/10 of a point for an air medal. So you get 10 points, you get another air medal. Then so we did that. I think we made we had a couple port visits, and then my life changed again. In May, towards the end of May, I was up on a regular flight or a tanker flight or something. I came down to the ready room, and no one would talk to me. There's bad breath. What's going on? And all the duty officer would do is stuck a piece of paper in my face, and I looked at it, and it was my Bupper's orders. I'd only been in the squadron for a year, and Bupper's was sending me to the Naval Postgraduate School for BSBA program. So, and I had to report there in June. So someone was smiling at me and had said, here's a guy. I had a godfather somewhere. Whether it was Wes McDonald from VA 56, whether it was the CO of the Heavy 4 when he grabbed me on 12 hours notice and sent me to VQ1, but somehow or other I had done something right. So packed my bag, said goodbye to everybody, and caught a flight from Clark to Pearl Harbor. Spent the night in Pearl Harbor. Caught another flight to Travis Air Force Base. Caught a flight from San Francisco to Whitby, came home,
Yep.
and I was out of the war.
For now.
We went to PG school, and got my, I won't bother you with the boring part of it, but got to spend quality time.
Had a good time. That was good.
Yeah. Nothing was going on demonstrably in Vietnam. We were still, Nixon was, you know, he had started the Vietnamization program. He had promised to bring the people out of Vietnam, and he was fighting the politicians. We were killing trees in Laos and Cambodia and South Vietnam with FAC missions. Nothing dramatic was going on. My course was 2 years long. I did something that I think, again, was a beneficial. I knew the COs of VA 128 at the time. So, and I knew a lot of the instructors in there, and I was a mid-grade lieutenant commander by this time, and I called up to 128 when my summer vacation. I think we had 2 weeks or 3 weeks off, and I said, if I come up there, can you use another instructor? And you know, I thought, well, sure, yeah, sure. So I spent when we had time between quarters, twice I went up to Whidbey Island, and on no cost orders to fly A6s for 128 as an instructor. And I also just, you know, stood squadron duty officer watches or whatever. And that paid dividends, because I had done 6 quarters, so I had 2 more quarters to go. And I called my detailer back at Bupers, and remember my boss had told me, Wes McDonald had told me, stay in the cockpit, stay operational. So I called my detailer, and he was a guy named Tony Less, ex-Blue Angel, went on to be a 2-star, and he had command at one time of VA 56, the same A4 squadron that I had been in. So I called him. I said, what are you looking at me for 6 months down the road? And he said, well, Woody, you've done a lot of flying. You've got a lot under your belt, but you know, we got to spread these flying around. Maybe a ship. And I said, why a ship? He said, well, you know, it's just your turn. And said, besides that, you're going to be graduating in June, which is when we need all the, we do a lot of the rotations, and I said, what happens if I graduate in March? He said, well, in March, there are a lot of seats open in the reg. So I came back to Carol, and we talked about it. And I said, if I take 22 hours a quarter for this final quarter, I can graduate in March instead of graduating in June by taking 12 or 10 hours or whatever. So I doubled up and tripled up and took 22 hours of PG school, math, physics, and whatever. And so in March, I graduated, and we still had a lease on the apartment, and so I went up to Whitby, and Carol stayed with the kids in Monterey. We had a house lease, not an apartment, and I got into my orders were to VA 196, but I had to go through the RAG for 3 months before that. So what I did was I was basically an instructor pilot. I went up there and came back down, picked up Carol, and we moved back up. And we had, at that time, we had sold our house, our first house in Washington State, and we needed to get another house. So we bought another house, right? And then went to that, moved in there, and I went out. Everything. Like I said, I was just an instructor. I was scheduled to be the maintenance officer for VA 196, which was already deployed on Enterprise again. In October, I went down to Cairqual. Now wait a minute.
This was in what year now?
This is
72?
This is in 71.
Okay.
Yeah, October of 71 was when I reported to the last part of October of 71. I met this ship deployed, but before that I had to Cairqual. And I went down to Alameda, California, with a VA 128 carrier qualified debt. And I was out there one night. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we were operating north of San Francisco. And I had another pilot with me, a guy named Bernie Colson, and we were up there, and I had already gotten my day traps out of the way, and I needed my night traps. And I think I'd gotten 1 or 2 of my night traps, but I needed to get 6 night traps, I think. Yeah, 6 or 8, because I was going to a deployed squadron. And I came in, and I was on the ball, and the LSO called up and says, got a pitch and deck, don't chase the ball. And so I'm coming in, everything's fine, looking good. Saw the ball, got it there 3/4 mile, called ball, pulled power back a little bit high, and the ball started to go low. And he said, don't chase the deck. Okay, I'm not going to chase the deck. And so the deck went down, the ball went high, and I took off a little power, and I took too much off. And I came in, and we hit the deck hard, and bouldered airborne. I looked over, and he says, boy, that was hard. And I said, I think they'll probably send us to the beach. It was a Hancock, 27 Charlie, called me, the approach controller, or departure, wherever it was, called me and says, not Paxel, I forget what my call sign was, but gold plate, climb to 1,200 feet, turn downwind. And I said, oh, good. Because if I'd done anything bad, they weren't going to send me around again. They'd send me to the beach right away. Yeah, I'd been a safety officer for a lot of times. I knew the rule, knew the game. So I went around, came back around, and they said, well, the deck was moving a little bit that last time. Don't chase it this time. I said, Roger, or whatever. Came in, and boom, trapped. Got it up, and they said, okay, we're going to take you to the cat for shoot you off again, which was, I was supposed to go out there and get 3 or 4 night traps. And this was my first one, so I taxi up to the catapult, and I'm on the number 2 cat, the starboard cat, and I see the yellow wands and whatever, and then I see the stop, and then I see all these lights running around, and then I hear the tower goes up, says 99 whatever we are, this is the air boss, our boss, we're going to cancel ops for the night. So I said, oh, that's good. That's good. Because you could feel the deck moving when we were parked up there on the cat. So they spin me off the cat, take me up, and do a reverse spin on the number 1 cat, and park me. Now I get out of the airplane, and I climb down the ladder, and I go down, and I see all these flashlights at the back end of the airplane. And some plane captain comes in. Gee, Mr. Sprouse, do you see what you did to your airplane? I said, no. And so I go back and turn on my flashlight. Now, going back to what happened, now I'll come back to the damage in a minute. When I came in, there were 4 LSOs on the LSO platform. And I was on a 27 Charlie, a small carrier. They're right there. They're right there. The one was the squadron LSO, the 128, which was a guy named Sonny Wong. And then there was another LSO from 128. And then there was the ComNav Air Pack Command LSO. He's the guy that is over all the Pacific as a commander. And his replacement, another commander, they were doing a turnover. The old guy was leaving, the new guy was coming in. So there were some experienced LSOs back there. When I came in, the deck was moving. I had taken power off because I had a high ball, and the deck was low. It came up so fast that my wheels hit the ramp.
Ramp strike.
And then I bounced so high and the deck started down. My tail hook reached down and snagged the safety net that is below the ramp and ripped it out. When the tail hook came out of the safety net, you know, the A6 tail hook is a like this, and then it has a stinger. Well, the stinger is centered with 2 rubber blocks, and that's all that centers it, so that the tail hook can go back and forth, and if it hits something, it centers itself by the 2 rubber blocks here. Well, the tail hook came up sideways, slapped the bottom of the airplane. There's a channel that the tail hook comes up in. It slapped the channel and just ripped the back end of the airplane out. The fuel vent and everything back there. Now, the protocol, if there's ever a doubt for an aircraft hitting the ramp, the protocol is the hook is probably damaged. If the hook is damaged, you don't want to bring him back in and trap him again, because the hook may fail and the airplane dribble off the end. The air boss, the captain of the ship, called the air boss and said, while I was boltering and going around, did he hit the ramp? The air boss says, let me check with the LSOs. Calls back to the LSO, did he hit the ramp? All 4 of them said, no, he didn't hit the ramp. He said he may have taxied to the 1 wire bolter, but he didn't hit the ramp. Okay. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there and I'm looking. Now, I don't know that I've taxied I've done this damage yet. All I know is my airplane's been damaged. And I attributed that to just the hook slap from coming back up. So I go back in and go back down to the LSO, and the LSO's, they came right in right away. I said, did I do it? Hit the ramp? They said, no, you're okay, you're all right. Don't worry about it. Go to bed. Well, we were on a midnight to noon cycle again, so I went to bed. Got up the next morning, about 10, 11, 9 or 10 o'clock, something like that. We were still just orbiting the Pacific, not flying. And I went up on the flight deck and looked back. And I walked back to the ramp. And where the ramp is painted yellow. I looked down, and there's a tire mark here, and a tire mark there. And I looked down at the safety net, and the safety net's all torn and all ripped apart or whatever. And I thought, oh no. And so I paced off the distance between the two tires, and I went to the A6 on there. Same number. So I went to the ONC. I went down to the ready room to the ONC of our det, this 128 detachment. And I said, did I do that? He says, yeah. And I said, well, what's going to happen? I've got orders. I'm supposed to, 3 days, I'm supposed to leave, and 4 days go out to, and he said, we're talking about it. So he said, well, what we're going to do is we'll launch you, bang you off, and send you to the beach. I don't know if I did a date trap or not. I might have done a date trap, and then we're going to send you to the beach, and then we'll call you out tonight, and if everything's okay, if you're still on track. I said, okay. So I grabbed a BN, and we went out, and I may have done a trap, I don't remember. Went to Alameda. Now it's about 2:33 in the afternoon, and I've got to sleep, and my eyes are this big, and I'm laying up there, I'm laying in my bed, and I'm thinking, there's only one other time I've turned in my wings. Do I want to do it again? And so I didn't sleep, and I got a call. I called the beach det, and they said, you've got an overhead at 0300 or something like that, or 2:30 in the morning or something. So I thought, okay, well, guts it out, boy. Here you go. And I can always say, anytime I want on this flight, I can go out there, I can orbit Marshall, I can come down. If I can always say, nope, I'm headed to the beach, and blow the explosive bolts of my career, or I can guts it out and do it. So I went out and I finished qualifying that night.
Yeah.
And I got dinged in the accident. It was an accident. I got dinged for my overcorrecting for a high ball on a pitching deck. But it was really the ship, internal communications, the fact that the deck was moving so bad that night or that morning that 4 LSOs did not see me hit the ramp, taxi to the one. And had I been, and my wheels been that far lower, I'd have ripped the wheels off the airplane.
Or worse.
Yeah. Smacked the back of the airplane with the ramp.
Which happens.
So, they usually say that there's 2 times in your life in an aviator's life that he's prone to an accident, and that's around the 300-hour mark when you get cocky and you think you've got everything. And about the 2,500 to 3,000 hour mark, when you're busy doing other things in your career and you're not paying as much attention, and you begin to think that you're indestructible again. And that was, I don't know what the hours were, but it was a smack. Got my attention. So anyway, Jim Shaffron, another pilot, and I both went out to 196, and the first thing they asked me was, "Did you hit the ramp?" And the skipper at the time was a guy named Lloyd Richards, and he said, "Well, Woody, we're not going to make you my maintenance officer right now. We're going to make you my safety officer again." I said, "Okay, well," so I was in that safety officer bailiwick. So we spent, that was in October, and then sometime in late November, I think it was, or very early December, there was a little dust up in the Indian Ocean between India and Pakistan. And once again, the Navy called on Enterprise and says, "Boy, you're going to go down Enterprise and you're going to go to the Indian Ocean." So we went smartly down to Singapore, orbited east of Singapore for a day, and then picked up the Wichita or a couple other ships, and put a little mini task force together, went through the Straits of Malacca and went to the Indian Ocean. And we stayed there through Christmas in January. And that was really a very, very depressing low time for the entire ship, because we got stuck out in the Indian Ocean and no one would tell us what we were doing. We sailed over to close to Sri Lanka. We came back. We were flying days and nights, but not doing anything, not going any place until in the worldwide scheme of things, President Nixon was working behind the scenes for a visit to China, and Kissinger was running back and forth through Pakistan up into China secretly, and we were out there until that was all arranged. Then we came back to Yankee Station again, did some more killing monkeys and bombing the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and I think we got home. Let's see, Lloyd Richards. Yeah. We got home, quick turn, March. We got home in March of, we were out in the IO. We didn't get any mail. We didn't get anything. But Christmas was one I'll never forget for two reasons. They had sent I think it was the Wichita. It could have been it was an AOR, so I think it was Wichita. Sent Wichita to Singapore, and they got mail loaded aboard at Singapore, and then Wichita brought it back out. So we had this big unrep on Christmas Eve, and yeah, this is emotional too. Howie Young, our skipper, had worked out with his wife, Marge, that all the crews, the wives, would make I'm a steely killer.
Sweetest warrior you ever met.
But Christmas stockings.
Oh,
It was a big surprise. Only the CO and one other guy in the squadron knew about it. And
that wasn't the green bras, huh?
oh, these were just the orange stockings. And Wichita brought Christmas trees, which was a surprise for the ship. And I ended up walking Christmas Eve because I was really bummed out.
Yeah.
We were alongside Wichita, and they were bringing stuff aboard. And I saw these boxes that came across with green Christmas trees. So Christmas Day was very nice. It was really good. But we stayed out there until sometime, and we kept joking. We stayed. It was after New Year's Eve, and I said, "Here's what's happened. The guys at DC, just coming back in off Christmas leave, and they go back into the command center in the Pentagon, and Admiral Moore, the Chief of Naval Operations, who's JCS chairman, looks up at the display board and says, Zumwalt, who was Chief of Naval Operations, what's that ship out there? Well, Admiral, I think that's the Enterprise. Huh. What's it doing out there? Well, we sent it out there. I think we sent it out there when Kissinger was going back and forth, but that was early December. What do you think? What should we do? Well, maybe I should call McCain. Johnny McCain. John McCain.
The younger or
The
the
4-star who was sink back at the time. And I'm saying, John, what do you think? Should we bring Enterprise back? Enterprise? Oh, yeah. I did send Enterprise out there. I think that's a bloody good idea. Okay.
they forgot about you.
I swear they forgot about
They
it.
forgot about you.
Good grief.
But that conversation, of course, for the video is absolutely made up. It never happened that way. So we came back in March to the States. And it was also on March 30th or 31st that the North Vietnamese decided they were going to invade South Vietnam. And they put 14 divisions down the Ho Chi Minh Trail. They'd been doing it for the entire month of March. And they put 14 divisions down there, and they attacked from the north to the south, which became the Easter invasion, or the Eastern surprise, Easter surprise, which became Linebacker 1. Now we're back in the States. We did about a 6-month turnaround, and we then deployed. By this time I had left safety officer of 196 and was now the maintenance officer. I think I can safely say that we deployed as the largest A6 squadron to ever deploy. We had 12 bombers, 3 standard arm airplanes, and 6 tankers. I think that's pretty close to 20
This was in 72?
70, yeah, 70, yeah. This would have been October of 72. And we steamed straight across the Pacific. We did not stop in Pearl Harbor for an ORI. We steamed straight across. And we operated in Yankee Station October. We got there the latter part of October, so we were there in November. And December 18th, we were in Hong Kong, and the negotiations for peace with the secret ones. There were two sets of negotiations going on. One was the Paris peace talks, which had been going on for years.
Mm-hmm.
And the back channel, the secret ones that had been going on with Kissinger and North Vietnam in Paris. There had been an overture by the North Vietnamese in October 8th that they were willing to discuss separating the two issues, the political resolution in South Vietnam. And this is the United States, Kissinger talking to North Vietnam. Are we going to keep are we going to keep the president of South Vietnam in power? That's the political side. The military side was a in-place ceasefire. Well, those negotiations went on until the 13th of December, and on the 13th of December, Kissinger walked out of the peace talks,
Mm-hmm.
and on the 18th of December, the B-52 started bombing. Linebacker 2 started. We were in Hong Kong Harbor on the 18th. I left on the morning of the 18th, and we were too far away for the Enterprise to be part of the linebacker 2 ops on the night of the 18th and the 19th. But we got there on the morning of the 19th. We did day ops, and because we couldn't go at night because we had lost our night qualifications, so we had to do day trap before we could do a night trap. So our first night operations was on the night of the 19th and the 20th, and we launched. That was the second night of the B-52 ops, and we lost an airplane that night. Our XO, Gordy Nakagawa, was going after a target in Haiphong, and he was shot down by AAA. Both of them got out, both captured. So we were on that midnight to noon cycle again. That lovely midnight to noon. Get up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, eat breakfast, plan your flights, flying, and it was great for the A6s. It was great for me as maintenance officer. I'll go back a minute talking about one thing. When we left Hong Kong, we didn't know anything about. There was we didn't know what. There was none of this linebacker 2. They didn't even have a name for it then, and we didn't know about the B-52s. We cleared the port and got underway, and we were having an AOM in the ready room, and CAG office called out to the squawk box and said, "Is your skipper there?" And Howie said, "Yeah, I'm here." And he said, "Well, I want you and your maintenance officer to come talk to me. I'm in my stateroom." So what have I done now? So I went up to CAG's office, or CAG's stateroom with my skipper, and he said, "Here's what we're gonna do. Tomorrow night we're gonna start night ops, A6s, and Woody, Keg, Joe Frick, he was another East Coast A6 guy. He said, Woody, what do you need to give me 6 full system A6s each night? And then keeping full systems. And I had been fighting, as maintenance officer, I had been fighting with the CAG and maintenance people in the ship for priority on the hangar deck.
Right.
Because you couldn't do system work on the flight deck. And so I said, CAG, what I need is priority on the hangar bay 1. And he says, you got it. So for the duration of up until December 30th, I could put as many airplanes on the hangar bay as I needed.
You would trap and then taxi straight over to elevator, and then the guys would get after it.
The other thing that was good about that midnight to noon cycle was I could use the system birds from midnight till daylight, and then at daylight I could use the airframes as Alpha Strike bombers carrying 22 500-pound bombs without a system. I could use them as an lead nose bomber, which worked out very well. But yeah, if we had an airplane parked up on the forward end of the ship, buried in a bunch of A7s or something, and I wanted that airplane in the hangar bay, I could tell Keg, I need that, and Air Ops would move that airplane for me.
And this was linebacker 1 or 2?
It was linebacker 2.
On the Constellation?
Enterprise.
On the Enterprise. Gosh, just looking for that. Yeah, I think they had 4 carriers out there at
Yes.
that time.
Actually, I had 5.
5 carriers.
5 carriers. I have them listed somewhere.
Yeah. It was the Kitty Hawk was out there. Yeah.
Saratoga. I think it was
Yeah,
Saratoga.
so it was the Midway, the Constellation, the Kitty Hawk, the Coral Sea. That was in 72.
That's
Yeah. It said, I don't see the Enterprise in that list. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Several of the carriers had operated through the 6-month mark of their cruises and were pushing 7 and even 8 months of deployment. This led to a problem for AirPac in that there were not enough carriers available for relief. Oriskany and Enterprise were next on the dance card, but they were still in the middle of their pre-deployment turnarounds.
That's when they brought Saratoga and I think America.
Yeah.
Midway was out there.
Also making the trip, their 5th was the main battery of 196. So Commander Howard I. Young.
Yep, how Young.
Yeah.
Squadron deployed with a mix of A6As, Bs, and KA6Ds. According to pilot Lieutenant Commander Dick Toft,
Yeah.
the aircraft in question, this was a loss off San Diego.
And that was an A6B.
Yeah.
We lost him on.
The crew successfully got out,
Yeah.
but Toft was seriously injured.
Yeah, he didn't make it.
Um,
He didn't make the cruise. He stayed behind.
okay.
John
Yeah.
David Austin was the bombardier.
Right here it was with Enterprise's arrival. They joined a strong lineup consisting of America, Kitty Hawk, Midway, Oriskany, and Saratoga. The requirements of linebacker had forced several of these carrier air wing teams to execute a drop everything and go drill. But at least the Navy men were now used to it. Talk about, yeah. And then, so you were with the B-52s.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, I was just looking for any pictures from that cruise, and I couldn't find any. What did you think about the A6 in comparison to all the other aircraft that you'd flown?
Well, a full. Let me go back. In doing my research on linebacker 2, which I told you about, that I was curious about how did we get to the point where we were using B-52s. So it starts out from the 8th of October and runs through the 30th of December. I found in State Department history documents from the State Department and from National Archives that when President Nixon and Kissinger, and here's something that was very interesting, very few people really know it. The Secretary of Defense Laird and Secretary of State Rogers were both against bombing North Vietnam again. And they were completely out of the loop during the planning for linebacker 2. They were completely out. The chain of command was the President of the United States, Kissinger, General Haig, who was Kissinger's deputy, and the ambassador Bunker in Saigon, and Admiral Clary in CPAC. That was it. And I take it back. I think it was General Meyer, who was SAC in Omaha at the time. That was it. And JCS was in there too. And when they one of the problems during this was the weather. And they would repeatedly talk back and forth about, we need this, if we're gonna do this, we need to send the Northeast a message, and we've gotta do this, and we've gotta show them we're serious, and we're blah, 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 blah. And our bombing days up north are going to be extremely limited. The first LGBs, laser guided bombs, were coming on.
The trams. Yeah.
Well, that was the Navy version.
Yeah.
The Air Force had them before we did. And they kept talking about, we need to get the TAC air in there in the daylight. But what are we going to do about all weather? Because the weather was bad. That's the wrong monsoon. And repeatedly in message traffic, it stipulated the only all-weather airplanes we have, the B-52, the F-111, and the A-6. And I had no idea that the A-6 carried so much importance with it as to be singled out, that you're going to get your A-6. And I can see Sink Back Fleet, CTF-77, promising sink pack in Hawaii. Well, how many all-weather missions can you get? Well, I've got Enterprise can give you 6, Saratoga can give you 6, American can give you 6, Midway can give you 6. That's 24. I can give you 24 all-weather strike flights at night. And then we'll let TAC Air do what it can do in the bad weather in the daytime. But the B-52s are going to go at night, the F-111s are going to go at night, and the A-6s are going to go at night. And I never realized in my life that the A-6s were in such prominence in the planning of how are we going to get the North Vietnamese to the peace table and get them to agree to this ceasefire.
So you saw it from the introduction of the A6, and then it was almost over before it got rolling with the A6, all the way to its principal role at the end of the war.
Yeah, and that's all A6As, because the A6Es didn't start arriving until 73.
Okay.
And if I have to kudo anybody, it's the AIMD people, the people on the ship, the people at Whidbey, the people at Oceana. It's the chief petty officers, it's the sailors, it's the tech reps,
Yeah.
and it's the BNs, because the BNs were the ones who had the magic to make the airplane, after it launched off the front end, they had the magic in the fingertips to put the bombs on target.
You see a lot of that in the hood, and the guy just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I flew with the best BNs in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm sure every A6 pilot does that. And fortunately, the A6E came along, and the A6E tram, and the latest versions. And by that time, the technology was beginning to catch up. But I'll tell you, the A7 was at the time the best dive bomber I around.
Okay.
The A6 could hit a target, but had to do it with 28 bombs. Maybe 1 or 2 of them are going to hit the target. Or 22 500-pound bombs. You know, we could carry a truckload of bombs. The A7 had a bombing system that worked, and it was good. And I didn't realize that until I was an Air Wing commander.
Yeah.
And I flew the A7.
Yeah. And the A6s would go in and strike and identify where the fire was coming from, and the A7s would come in behind them and clean up knowing where the artillery locations were. Is that right?
Yeah.
They could take out the gun placements.
We would have maybe on an alpha strike.
Yeah.
But on an alpha strike, the A6s went in with the tons of bombs, and we had a bore sight capability.
Sure.
But maybe a lot of people use bore sight. I never used bore sight. I used straight iron bomb, crank in a mill setting, be at the right altitude and the right airspeed with the pipper on the target,
Yeah.
and hit the button. And the A7s could roll in, A7Es could roll in, put the HUD pipper on the target. You know, basically commit to what amounted to a commit, and just pull back. And the digital computer,
Right.
It was a digital computer. It wasn't this analog to digital stuff. And it would put the bombs on the target.
Yeah.
were 10 knots over speed, if you were 2,000 feet higher, if you were whatever. And that's what the A6 never had. And it was only, I think it was probably the A6F, which was the last gasp for the A6, that had that capability. That was probably along with the Grumman Air Wing and John Lehman's.
Yeah.
Uh,
600 ship.
yeah.
I think we're going to have to leave it there and pick it up another time. There's a lot more to talk about. But I'm getting tired. And I'm running out of battery is the problem too. But we can pick this up. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Nothing. I'm sorry for taking so much of your time.
No, this has been just a wonderful afternoon, and I've learned so much, and I've been at this for more than 10 years now, digging in with, getting those documents out of the National Archives and the command history reports and the databases from the Naval Heritage Command and crunching the numbers and I just can't get enough of you guys. And you have been so helpful to me. I mean, you've made I think a significant difference in the way I've thought about myself.
Oh, really?
By representing that it was an opportunity thing, not necessarily a planning thing.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any way I can help.
Well, it was, hearing it from you really made a difference for me.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, you are doing wonderful work. I think
Thanks.
it's wonderful. Yes.
Thank you. Well, I just love talking to you all, and I'm gonna try to get out to Hook in Reno next month,
Oh, is that next month?
and then I'm gonna try to get to Charleston, where the Lexington is.
No.
Yorktown.
Yorktown.
In September.
Yeah.
I did 4 trips last year,
Oh, boy.
and I've got to at some point try to.
Is it 20 minutes, 15 minutes after 7?
Yes.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah. It just went
So,
just like that.
it sure did.
Yeah.
You've got the tough chairs too.
Oh, these.
They're flying.
Yeah, that's right. It's not easy.
We've got to take some pictures together, and then